It was my first time sitting in on a German class at the college in my hometown, and I was just observing it. Obviously, I'm not enrolled. I finished my bachelor's degree, and I'm not going to enroll in a undergraduate program mid-semester. I was just auditing it, and my thoughts on that were that it was good to read a text, the assigned text, that was at a level where I could pretty much understand everything. That really boosted my confidence that I could read something informative and understand it, because reading is extremely hard for me. And and also to sit through the lecture and understand pretty much everything that was being discussed. On the other hand, there were times where we had to analyze these quotes as part of the classwork, and I could basically get the gist of it, but like the whole assignment of it was, read the quote and then determine why it's ironic or humorous in some way. And that was just like one step beyond what I'm able to do. I could read the quote, kind of get the gist of it, but the ability to explain why it's humorous or something, I felt like something I couldn't do. I don't have the skills to do that. And my other thoughts about the class were the professor is an American, but he speaks German and his wife is German. And even though his speech is correct, makes no grammar mistakes, I'm assuming, has the ability to explain, word structure or sentence structure and all those things that, someone who is an expert in language would be able to do. I was really not that impressed with his class. First of all, I did not think his accent was very good. Um, and I really don't see an excuse for that because his wife's German. I mean, it's very hard if you're just book learning a language to really develop that correct accent. And I don't think I really developed that until I spent time in Germany. Um, but it just felt like, I think that if a real German person heard that, they would be like, this is like, just like when you hear someone say habla español, to mean, do you speak Spanish? That accent is like nails on a chalkboard, it's just so off. And that's how I feel like his German sounded to me. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but it just didn't, it sounded very Americanized. And the students in his class, when they raised their hands and gave answers, similarly, it might be because maybe they're sophomores and they haven't studied abroad yet, or maybe they just are not very good at parroting dialect, but it just, even though they were speaking correctly, it's the noise of it just was like off to me. And on top of that, the text, the content of the class was comparing Goethe and Schiller, or not just comparing, but analyzing their friendship and their relationship and their influence on German literature, etc. And I mean, it's a little bit of a dry topic, but with the right, expressions and animations and maybe visuals, there's no reason why that has to be so dull. And it was so boring to hear him talk and just like every now and then say something that he thought was like a little bit of a joke and go, and just like such a lack of personality that really makes language learning tedious and dry and hard and excruciating in some ways. And I think that's why people give up on language, because you're learning grammar, learning writing, learning reading and speaking is so tedious. And that combined with often the sense that you're not improving, which I still have right now, that I've invested all these years in learning German and I still am like stuck at a certain level of inability. Add to that a professor who is so devoid of personality, and it's just like I give up, like I can't take it. I do think I'm going to go back, but it reminded me of classes I've taken before or experiences I've had before in high school and college, where you're sitting there learning something and the presentation of it is so dry and so exhausting that you just are like, I barely understand this and I want to give up. And the whole experience is for me with German is, it's like a frustrating situation. Like, imagine if you had to do everything with your non-dominant hand. That's how it feels. Like if I had my right hand tied behind my back and I was having to do everything with my left hand, brush my hair, brush my teeth, do everything right, I would just eventually be like, so I could do it, but I would be so sloppy and so annoyed that eventually I think I would just take my right hand out and say, I can do it so much faster. with my right hand, and so much better. And that's how I feel with German. When I'm reading German, I can understand it. When I'm listening to German, I can understand it. But there's such a frustration because it's just barely, it's pushing me just to about my level of inability, which I feel like is very analogous to doing things with your non-dominant hand. That, you know, you're able to do it, but it's almost unable. And it's just frustrating, and you just want to give up. That being said, when I spent time in Spain, I would say that the equivalent of that was having both hands tied behind your back. In German, it's everything with my left hand. In Spanish, it's everything with no hands. Maybe I could still do things, open a door by, using my head or pick something up with my mouth or something like that. But basically being completely dependent on someone else and, the spoken word washing right by me and not understanding a word of it and really being dependent on the assistance of others. And I felt like I had both my hands tied behind my back, basically. And that's an exhausting experience. I mean, it's the only way you can learn a language is to really immerse yourself and really keep going at it over and over. But every step of the way, it feels so pointless. It feels like you're never learning it, you're not absorbing. At least that's my experience. I think that if I went to a place where the language had no similarities between English and whatever they spoke, like maybe an Asian language, I would feel like I had both my legs and my hands tied behind my back. Maybe that would be the analogy there. But with German, I feel like I'm being forced with a non-dominant hand. With Spanish, I feel like I have no hands. And then maybe like if I was learning Chinese, I would feel like I had no hands and no feet, and that'd be that dependent on others to assist. Just a way to kind of explain it. I guess I'm going to attend the class again, and maybe a different class too, with a different professor, and see how that goes. And I can give an update on how that is later on.